If you guys are not registered to vote or you just need more info on how to vote and making sure your vote counts, go to sendthevote.com. It's a free bipartisan website. It's not left or right. It's just about making sure that you guys vote and your vote is counted. You can also text NELK to 33022. That's going to be the same as going to sendthevote.com. You're just going to get a text with all the info in your area on how to vote. And like I said, making sure your vote is counted.
Worried about letting someone else pick out the perfect avocado for your perfect impress-them-on-the-third-date guacamole? Well, good thing Instacart shoppers are as picky as you are. They find ripe avocados like it's their guac on the line. They are milk expiration date detectives. They bag eggs like the 12 precious pieces of cargo they are. So let Instacart shoppers overthink your groceries so that you can overthink what you'll wear on that third date. Download the Instacart app today to get free delivery on your first 3 orders, while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
This is the Indy 11 Coaches Show, brought to you by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. Sit back, relax, and enjoy a beverage from 450 North Brewing, the official beverage of the Indy 11 Coaches Show. Now, let's get an inside look at the players, tactics, and opponents with Indy 11 head coach Sean McAuley.
Another episode of the Indy 11 Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. As always, Sean McAuley is here, and I'm Ian Gilmore to take you along with episode 9 of the Coaches Show podcast. Fresh off your first BYB award, Sean, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say hopefully it's the first time you've been handed a golden corn dog.
Yeah, it is. And really special award. It went straight into my office where I've got some other stuff that's memorabilia from my football career, so it goes right up there.
How was just the night in general for you?
Fantastic. You know, great to be with the supporters. You know, and really good for the players actually to understand how much it means for everybody that's part of that group and part of our club in terms of the amount of passion and enthusiasm they show for us is phenomenal, and we really appreciate it.
Nights like those, just with everybody interacting and players sitting with supporters and talking to them before, during, after, always cool to be there and be a part of. So, really enjoyable night, like you said. We've arrived at the postseason. 34 regular season games completed, and all those results lead us to our first home playoff game since 2019. Obviously, that's incredibly exciting. I want to get into some of the things you've kind of talked about in the last few weeks, in terms of working on changing the culture to a winning culture. And the first thing I want to ask you about is, I believe it was after the Birmingham game on the field to the players. I think we included in kind of like our recap videos that winning breeds a winning culture. And sometimes it's as simple as that. Is that just what it can be sometimes?
I think it can save it, you have to mold it, obviously, as well, with the characters that you have in your team. But realistically, you can't have a winning culture without winning games. You maybe can have a good culture, and you can maybe have a culture that's something that gears towards winning games, which is a process as well. But ultimately, if you want to be a winning team, you have to win games, and it is really that simple. And for me, we need to step up. Now, we've done well this season, finishing 4th, but we need to continue, and just continue to be in a chance to win games and win a championship. That's what we're here for.
One of the things you mentioned, I think, when we were talking midweek, one of the times is Indy 11 all-time points per game is 1.3. This year's, I think, if you include the Open Cup games, if I'm not wrong, is 1.6. So obviously that's better than it has been on the average. When you talk about just winning breeds winning, you did also mention that you have to mold the culture. So what things do you do on a day-to-day basis to try and do that?
We've got to build trust in what we're doing, and trust in each other, and have the same values in what we want to try and achieve, both every day in training and then when it comes to match day. And I've been really pleased with the players' work and effort in training. And then when it comes to match day, there are been many times where players have had to make decisions that they've made the right ones to get us over the line. And I think if we can adopt that culture where the players become independent decision makers on the field with a view to a structure that we want to play to, with a view to a style of play that we want to achieve, and with always the number one priority is maximum effort, I think then we have to accept any result that comes. But I would say if we have all them ingredients into each game, we're probably going to win more than we don't win.
Ted Lasso is one of my favorite shows, and I think it's in season 3 that Trent Crimm is talking to Ted about what he's realized, and he realizes that kind of he's built this culture from just thousands and thousands of tiny moments in games, in training, around the facility. And while that's a TV show and they can script those things, I think that is true kind of about just team culture. It is all these tiny little moments. Are you kind of conscious of that when you're in your day-to-day activities?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we discuss as a staff what we want to achieve from the day, what we want to achieve from the month, the week. It's all in a closely designed periodization of what we need to do. And then we also want to always give the players some time on their own, because they need to create relationships, and they need to have that freedom to perform what they think they need to improve their own performance as well. So we do go down the road of making sure that every moment for every individual is tried to be covered to make them the most confident they can be when they go and take the field.
Yeah. There are all those things that you can handle internally. I want to ask you about externally, though. Fans, I think you'll probably get a range of expectations from one end to the other, and you can't control those necessarily. But I think you've developed a relationship already in the first year with the fans in terms of, I think they trust you a lot and believe in you a lot. So they might listen to you, they might not. But like when you think about what the outside expectations are, that's probably not something that you talk about with your group necessarily. But I don't want to put you on the spot, but like, how do you think those should change as you try to change the culture as well?
I don't think that really should change. We should always want, and it's people talk about the entertainment business. We should always want to make our supporters happy, and that's it. So if we're losing in a game, we can score the last goal, and people are cheering at the end, then that is trying to make the supporters happy. We're trying to get them to come back again next week. We won't always make everybody happy, but my philosophy on having the relationship with the supporters, and I've said it a million times, we will never, ever not try our hardest. And that's all I can guarantee. And, I've had a couple of occasions where people have come to me and said, I think we should do better. We're trying our best in every game. Because if anybody doesn't try the best, they won't play. Or they'll come off the field. Or that's the strict rule that we have, is we have to give our best. Because if the supporter was given the chance to wear the shirt and wear the jersey and put the crest on, they would give their best. I don't think any supporter, if I offered them the chance to wear the shirt, would say, yeah, can we switch to a 3-back, or do you want me to play in the 10 or the false 9?
You never know.
They just want to go on the field and give their absolute all for the jersey, for the name, for Indy 11, and that's all we need to do when we take the field. There'll be some moments where we're better than the opposition, and there'll be other times where we're probably not as good as the opposition. I look at the KC game in the semi-final. They're a really good team, really good players. But I was really pleased and proud of how we finished that game, because we give it a go.
Yeah.
And in the first half, we were a little bit in awe of what they did, and we said, let's get back to what we're good at, and let's just give our absolute maximum to see if we can get something out of the game. And we nearly did, But that is how I do believe that we can keep going with trying to keep that relationship with the supporters and keep the culture growing to where every week we will always give our best.
Yeah. And I think, right after that KC game, you talked about how, Hunter's penalty save gave him something to shout about. Mm-hmm. And BYB Awards last night, 2 of their nominees for Moment of the Year. One was that save from Hunter in the penalty, and one was kind of the general Open Cup run. So obviously they are seeing these things and seeing the effort being maximum, and those are the things that they value too. So I think a lot of this you can kind of tell when you talk to you that it was developed early on in your playing career when you were at Man United. We've talked about it a little here and there, but can you kind of just talk again and expound a little on kind of the expectation that you felt as a player when you were there and kind of how that's developed into your managerial career?
Yeah, I mean, when you play for like a big club, no matter who you're playing against or which team you're playing for, whether it's the under-16s, the 18s, the 23s now, and all the different teams that they have. Back in my day, there was 4 teams. They all played on a Saturday. It was a B team and an A team, which was 16s, 18s. Reserve team would play at home and the first team would play away, or vice versa. Then every Monday morning, every team was expected to win. So no matter who we played, we expected to win. And the expectation of that was because you're playing for Manchester United. You're expected to win and to perform to your absolute best. So what ends up developing inside you is, no matter who you're playing against, you have to give maximum effort. And we would play against teams that were probably lesser in terms of talent than us, but we knew that we were getting the maximum effort from every opposition we played against. So there was no easy game. So every game was difficult. And I don't want to have our group ever go through a situation where we think, oh, it'll be okay because we can win next week. There is no easy games in USL now. Yeah. The league's changed from what it used to, and that's no disrespect from previous years. But I know from when the Portland Timbers would play in the USL, what is now the Championship, we were playing 16, 17-year-olds against grown men of Sacramento, and we could never beat them. It was too much of a challenge. The jump was too big. But it was great for our development, and we obviously demanded that they should want to win that game, give their all to win that game. And I just get the impression now that the league's changed, where every game's tough. I don't ever want to have it underestimate the value of winning, and comes back to that winning culture again. It's really, really difficult to win a game of football. Like I said, we have 14 wins. If you had the other 4 from you, that's 18 wins out of what would be 39 games or something like that. So Louisville, obviously, with the amount of wins that they've had, I think it's 24 maybe. But it's an unbelievable amount of wins, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
So they've not gone into the games thinking, this one's easy this week, because you can't take time off. And I just don't want our group to ever think, have the impression that it'll be okay next week, because it's not. We need to win and try to win every game.
Yeah. It is interesting in American soccer with having playoffs, because just about everywhere else around the world, your season is defined by where you finish in the table. And I think to some degree that's true here, but I was watching Moneyball last week, and Billy Beane, one of the things he says is nobody cares if you don't win the last game. How much would you say that success over a whole season is defined by the postseason part of it?
I mean, huge. You play your season to get into the postseason, and if you're in the postseason, you have a chance of winning it. And there are 16 teams that get into it. So again, to win it all is really tough. So in terms of defining success, I think it's stages. You go through your pre-season. Does everybody get healthy and everybody available for the first game of the season? That's success. You go through your opening sort of 10 games where you can say, have we had a good start or not? And then that would then lead you into being, say, yeah, we're on the right track. When you end the season, if you finished in the top 8, I think you've been successful. If you finished in the top 4, then you've done an incredible job for, the home supporters and getting another home game. But as we've seen from last season, I think it was Detroit that beat Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had, I think, only lost 1 game at home all season against us. And then they go and get beat in the first first round of the playoffs. So finishing in the top 8 is a success. Finishing in the top 4 is a little bit of a cherry on top. But every game in that postseason is really tough. And, it would be difficult to say that you're then only successful if you win it all, because there is only going to be one team that wins it all. Out of currently there's 24. So that if you're going to define it by the one team that wins it is successful, then 23 teams are unsuccessful. And I don't think that's the case, because I think everybody puts an incredible amount of work across the whole league to make sure that they try and do the best for the clubs.
We've talked this season kind of how about, you think about the teams that have established themselves as kind of like those stalwarts like Louisville, Tampa Bay. Louisville's been to, I believe, 9 straight conference finals. Tampa Bay is there nearly every year. How much, in your mind, are they those established stalwarts because they do it in the postseason, because they do it when it matters?
Yeah, I think it just breeds. I think, listen, as we speak now, and I can only speak for this season, but, last season we got into the playoffs as well. If we make the playoffs next season, it will be the most successful era in the club's history, because we've never made it more than 3 times, twice in a row. And that's, you've got to start building somewhere. Yeah. And that's where, we've got to recognise the fact that we've just got to keep building and keep building and keep building, because that's what these other teams do. So Tampa, while they've been in the postseason for so many years, have had their success. Louisville have been in the conference final for the last 9 years or whatever, and they've won it, twice? Yeah. So they're not unsuccessful because they've not won it 9 times.
Right.
But I would like to take the club to a position where we are, battling and competing for them top places every year, year in, year out. And like I said, if we always finish in the top 8, we have a chance of winning it.
You won the MLS Cup with Portland in 2015, is that right?
15.
That you guys got momentum near the end of the season, not snuck into the playoffs, or is that fair to say?
Yeah,
at least got in late, and then rode that momentum to an MLS Cup. Not the same story for us this year, obviously. We've been in the top 4 for a while now, or at least fighting for those spots. Yeah. But how can momentum at the end of the season kind of propel you through the end?
It can. We got it. I think we won our last 3 league games to get in, and then it just snowballed a little bit for us. What I would say is we were probably in a false position when we were fighting to get in the last 3 games. We had a midfield 3 of Diego Valeri, Diego Chara, and Darlington Nagbe, who probably could be 3 of the best players in the MLS history. So we were okay. But there was a spell in the season where we thought, oh no, we need to start get going here, because we can miss out, because good teams can miss out. Momentum's really important, really key. I would say, I think for 12 years I had in the MLS, I think 8 of them I did play in the playoffs. I remember in 2018 we finished first in the West. Portland Timbers lost in the first round against Houston Dynamo. And I think we lost 1-0 away from home, because it was like home and away at that time. So we played away from home, knowing that we had the advantage at home. We played in the first game down in Houston. Diego Chara, a really important player for us, got injured after 15 minutes. Missed a load of chances, which would have equalised and sort of took the momentum with us for the home game. We didn't. We went back home thinking 1-0 would be enough, because we always thought we'd get a goal, and we couldn't score. And that was us done, out. We went and we hosted the last, the conference final against Salt Lake. Salt Lake beat us at our place, went to the final. They got beat off KC. In 2020, with Minnesota United, we went to the conference final in Seattle. And with 20 minutes to go, we were 2-1 up. With 20 minutes to go. So heading to the MLS Cup final, and we lost 4-2. So momentum shifts can happen over a season, over a period of games. They can happen in one game. They can happen in 20 minutes. And, that's the beauty of why everybody comes to watch football, because you don't really know or can't predict what's going to happen, in the next 5-10 minutes. Things can change really, really quickly. And my experience of the playoffs is we'll prepare. We've been preparing for Rhode Island, and we'll prepare for the rest of this week. But I've also told the players to prepare for chaos, because if we go ahead and they know that it's now or never, the game is changing. And I don't know what they're going to change to. I can predict that they might put an extra player up further forward. I can predict that they might then start playing longer balls in directly into the box. I can predict all them things. But in terms of practicing for everything, it's really unsure, because we don't know whether we're going to be the ones that are going to put an extra player up front and start playing a little bit more direct to get the ball in the box to try and get it all back. It is going to be chaos, and that's what the playoffs are. And the chaos, because of it's a do or die, and also because the players, there is a bit of anxiety and nerves within their own performance. So we're going to have to get everything right, keep the players calm, but keep them motivated, keep them, in an area where we can manage the anxiety, but also increase the pressure a little bit to make them perform to the absolute maximum. And then once the ball rolls, we'll have enough there to make sure we try and get through.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously everything you said is true, and when it's knockout games are just different from regular games, and that's what it is now. It's essentially like a cup competition, and you harped on in the Open Cup, 6 wins get you a trophy. Now we're into 4 wins, get you a trophy. How much will your side pull on that Open Cup experience in being in those situations? 2-0, 2-1 up against Atlanta late on, 1-0 up against Chicago for 85 minutes. How much can you pull from those experiences in the Open Cup this year?
I think we'll pull a lot. I think it's important to remind them, and listen, they've been through it. And when I talk about cup competitions being chaos and being do or die, they know this is an old narrative now for our players, because we've been through it. So we'll be prepared for that. I've no doubt about it that we'll go into it. And I liken it a little bit to the last home league game. It was do or die for Birmingham, and we're 2-0 at half time. They come out completely different, because they know that they've got to get goals back. And it could have gone to 4-2 and all that sort of stuff, but it doesn't, and that can happen. And then they could score and get an equaliser, and then it's extra time, then it's penalties, if it was in the cup competition. So it is going to be a different game, and it's going to have to be a really strong mindset. What we need to do is make sure that we keep the players fit, strong, ready, and we've just got to try and get through the game.
While we're on that subject, injuries, the guys that were coming back at the weekend, are they all set and still okay? Yeah,
they've come through well. We decided at the weekend at Tampa to give people playing time, because while we're looking at the game against Rhode Island is a one-off game, if we get through that and somebody gets injured, I don't want it to be a month before, 6 weeks before somebody else has played.
Yeah.
So it was good to get minutes into some of the players to make them available for selection this week in the first round of the playoffs, but also be available for the following game if we get through, that they've had 90 minutes under the belt. So everybody at this moment in time is fit and healthy. Just obviously Diego Sanchez had an injury that's been long term, so is Mackie King.
Cool. Time now to a shout out 450 North Brewing and Spirits. We are once again cheersing today to the postseason with Oktoberfest. Reaching the end of October, but a great beer for all of fall. So again, thank you to our friends at 450 North Spirits and Brewing. And again, cheers to the playoffs. Okay, so this Sunday, Rhode Island is the opponent. It was a 3-3 draw at their place, I think in the middle of the summer. A stoppage time equalizer from them, but then a 1-0 win for us at home on a Wednesday against them this year. Do you draw much from those games and what happened in them to prepare for this one?
I think we've got to reflect on, it's been tough games, both of them. And I will say in reflection to the 1-0 game at home, they rested a few players because they played Hartford at the weekend, which is a local derby for them. So, we might not have seen their best at home. But again, we went to their place and, other than, maybe a little bit of a foul on the goalkeeper or a last-minute equaliser from them, we'd have walked away with 3 points up there. So I think it's 2 really evenly matched teams. They're going into it with good form, really good form. And our last 10 games have been quite good as well, with 2 defeats and 4 draws. So 4 wins, 4 draws. So I'm expecting it to be a really tough matchup.
They were the king of the draw this year. I think 15 for them. And because of that, they rarely lost. 7 losses. I think only Louisville and Charleston had less. When you think about that, and then also factor that the game might go to extra time if it does remain a draw, how much do you think about or prepare for the possibility of 120 minutes?
Yeah, we have to. We'll prepare for that. And that'll be more so between myself and the staff to manage, potential shift changes for players, for energy. If we're up, what do we do? If we're down, what do we do? And we've also got to keep in mind on, the changes that we make might also impact penalties, because that could also play a factor at the end. So we'll take into account a lot of that preparation, and hopefully we'll go into it, with a good start, so that we don't get behind and we don't give the opposition too much life in the game, because they can be very dominant when they get hold of the ball. And I truly believe, with everything that's going on at their football club, they're going to be one of the top teams in USL in the next 5 years. With the new stadium that's going in, I know what they're doing at the training ground, the players that they've signed, and the people they're bringing in terms of what they do off the field. I think they'll be a really good team in this league for a long time in the future. We need to make sure that they have their first playoff appearance, which is great, and then we move on, and we'll take it from there for the following week, hopefully.
What is the most difficult challenge they present?
They've got goal scorers. With Dequa and JJ Williams, they've got goal scorers. Now in Noah Fusion, who's got the assist leader. And they're tightened up at the back, in terms of, I know they got Duggan in from Minnesota, who I was part of the group there, who drafted him from college. He's a really good player. Very strong on set plays. So, like any sort of battle with your opponent, they have a lot of strengths, and we'll have to manage that. And then with them strengths come areas where we'll try and exploit with what we think could be a strength of ours to try and get at them.
Internally, what do you feel is the most important thing your guys do?
We did really well in a few games towards the end of the season where we were really dominant in terms of creating chances down the same side of the field. And not beating ourselves by giving the ball up too easily in midfield. If we can retain the ball in midfield and get it into our front players, and we know how dominant they can be, especially if we play the right passes in behind the opponent's defence, we know we've got enough speed. And now with the ability to run with the ball as well, and Jack scoring the last goal at home was big for him, because he's now getting back to fitness. I think we've got enough at the front end of the pitch to be good enough, and then it's just making sure that we get back into a really good defensive shape, because like I said, we've got to stop crosses going in the box, because they're really, really strong on that.
Any message you want to send to the fans, just to ask them to come on out and be loud and proud?
No, because they've got the culture where, we keep saying that, going back to culture,
yeah.
the supporters have got it. They bring it every week, and they've built that, and quite rightly they should be recognised. And I have no doubt, no matter what happens, they'll support us and they'll clap us off the field, because I think it's been a really good season. I want to make sure that we try and give them one more game and just keep going down that road. But no matter what happens, they will sing, cheer, swear a little bit maybe, and they'll bring the energy that we need to try and get us over the line. And I will say, and it's been referenced by a few of the players as well, the players recognise it as well, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, shout out everybody that's made their way to Carroll this season so far. Carroll on Sunday will have the biggest event in town of the weekend. The second biggest event in town, maybe Taylor Swift, is in town this weekend. No offense to Swifties. It's cool timing that she's in town the same weekend as our home playoff game. Friday or Saturday, are you going?
No, I can't get a ticket.
Yeah, just like most people.
Yeah. I know somebody who is going though. Shout out to Shelby Gilmore, who is possibly the world's greatest biggest Taylor Swift supporter.
I would second that. I haven't met anybody that's bigger fan.
Yeah, I have no doubt she'll have the time of her life when she goes.
Yeah. Let's hope we can get her to the stadium on Sunday after that. If she's still riding the high, she might just not sleep and come straight over to Carol.
You'll spot her because she'll have Taylor Swift merchandise on. I've no doubt.
And bracelets up and down the arms.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you though, for those kind of pointing their eyes to Indianapolis this weekend, maybe for the first time, what's something or a few things maybe you've learned about the city in your first year here?
I mean, it's a really cool place to live. In terms of, not cool, it's a really easy place to live. People are great. Everything's accessible. Easy in and out of the airport. All the stuff that you can maybe go to other cities, and I've been in other places where it is absolute chaos. It's a little bit like a playoff game every day when you're traveling up and down the I-4 in Florida. But it's a really, really, really good place to live. And I'm really happy. I think I've got a great job with the players and working with them every day and the staff. Like yourself, everybody is really bought into what we're doing. And then once that ends, you can go home and everything's pretty easy. So if anybody's coming for the weekend and they're not living here, don't choose to live here because then that'll make it more complicated. But just enjoy your weekend with Taylor Swift.
Yeah, leave it for us. Okay, I think that's everything. Anything else on your mind that we're forgetting?
No. Just let's see if we can get past Sunday and get another game for us.
Yeah, it's been great so far, and long may it continue. That is it for episode 9 of the Indy 11 Coaches Show podcast, presented by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. Another shout out, as always, to 450 North Spirits and Brewing for providing us our Oktoberfests for the episode today. As always, another shout out to shop.indy11.com. Get your merch. Playoff merch is here. If you can't get it online, get it at the venue on Sunday, and that is where we will see you next. Until then, goodbye.
This is the Indy 11 Coaches Show, brought to you by your Central Indiana Ford dealers. Be sure to like and follow this podcast and check out other great podcasts on the All Indiana Podcast Network. To watch the video version of this podcast, subscribe to the Indy 11 YouTube channel.